The Army, in an effort to gain solutions to the problems which civil disorders have identified, must do so within the constitutional, statutory, and historical framework of federal and state responsibilities for preserving law and order. Involvement of military forces will be as a last resort, and when civil authorities are no longer capable of controlling the disorder. Military personnel are shown in the enforcement role, but the principles of control portrayed can be applied equally by civilian or military in civil disturbance operations. When peaceful demonstrations are held, the perimeters of the area should be policed. Opposing groups should be kept out of the area to avoid possible conflict. To maintain intelligence of the progress of these demonstrations, plainclothesmen should be infiltrated into the group. To avoid the possibility of an incident being created, it is further recommended that no uniformed law officers be stationed within sight of the demonstrators.
They raise our taxes, and what do they do with the money? Nothing, right? No! We need a new school bus for this town, right? No! Would you send your kids to school in that old one? No! Of course you wouldn't. No! That thing looks like it took Henry Ford to school, right? No! And playgrounds. We haven't got one playground in this town, do we? No! Your kids are playing in the streets right now or in somebody's backyard. You want them playing there? No! We need at least 3 or 4 playgrounds in this town. And another thing, that Main Street. It looks like...
Isolated and secured from outside interference or agitation, such demonstrations will usually terminate peacefully in a minimum of time. They shout, let off steam, burn a little excess energy, and go home. But since a crowd's mood can change more quickly than the weather, the possibility of trouble always exists. For this reason, reserves should be maintained in readiness. Now an incident which will demand more positive action.
What they call martial law. They don't tell me what to do, man. I'm a civilian. You dig it? Yeah, they served my time in that army, you know? Yeah. And these guys can tell them what to do. They don't...
In these staged demonstrations, the men dressed in black will typify hardcore professional agitators. Notified of the troublemakers' actions, the police arrive to break up the meeting.
You gotta be leaders, baby. Go out and just take it over by yourself. See? You know what I mean? See, here come these punk fuzz now. You watch. They think they're gonna find some reason to get us, see? But we're not gonna do anything wrong. We're not doing anything wrong. Nothing, baby. Yeah, baby, go home and play with your G.I. Joe toys. You don't tell me that, man. I'm a civilian, man. You dig it? Hey, baby. I'm not doing anything. Yeah, I'm lost. Says who? Why don't you show me it's enough, man? Huh? You don't tell us where to go and what not. This is my time.
When the group refuses to disband, action must be taken. Now the agitators shift their troublemaking skills into high gear, playing on the sympathies of a crowd which has gathered spontaneously. They mingle with the people, using the naturally contagious qualities of excitement and violence to incite them into action. More force is needed and is called for. Note that the reinforcements approach in formation, organized, intact, and formidable. This is an important psychological point. The crowd's first view of the troops must be impressive, a sobering sight. No unnecessary action is taken. With this show of force, the crowd is given the opportunity to disperse voluntarily.
You are ordered to disperse and go to your home. We will no longer tolerate this lawlessness and interference with law and order. You have 2 minutes in which to disperse your home. If you do not do so, we will use necessary force to make you do so.
Since the people have no real interest or involvement in the issue, they fade away quickly, depriving the agitators of their most valuable weapon, the crowd. Abandoned by John Doe, they cannot stand alone. In many cases, the law can call the play with just a show of force. Force displayed, but not exercised. By demonstrating self-control and restraint, the law can sometimes activate these same qualities in the mob. When a show of force does not disperse the mob, there should be a direct application of force, but only the minimum necessary to do the job. Here, troops in line formation exert a steady, continuous pressure on a mob that is assembled downtown. The line, which can be used in defense to deny access to an area, is very effective for moving a crowd straight back. The objective is to shift the crowd toward an intersection. Additional troops are added to the flanks as the line nears the intersection to support a change in formation. Before reaching the intersection, the line is converted to a wedge. The wedge formation serves to split the mob into smaller, more easily handled groups, which are separated and channeled into different side streets. Boldness the rioters drew from their collective strength in numbers will soon begin to diminish. Reserves move out in support to help move the smaller groups back toward the residential areas. Again, an absolute minimum of force is used. In effect, the crowd is escorted home, and no detours are allowed. The formation exerts a steady, unrelenting pressure. It does not move so quickly that the crowd cannot easily withdraw before it, nor so slowly that the crowd can pause to regroup or rebuild its sense of unity. Here, the mob is channeled in the desired direction by a combination of concertina wire and an echelon formation that literally steers it around a corner. The line, the wedge, and the echelon. These formations have proven effective against mobs of considerable size, but they can be no more effective than the individuals who man them. The soldier or policeman who serves in them must match his courage and professionalism with a high degree of self-control. A favorite trick of professional agitators is to form a ring around the rear of the mob to block the retreat they will usually make when confronted with armed troops. This tactic can be defeated by directing riot control agent grenades toward the encircling ring at the mob's rear. Unrestrained, the people will see the wisdom of withdrawal. For the problem of an aroused, belligerent mob, a riot control agent is a practical, humane solution. A disperser provides the wider coverage necessary for such a large group. Exterior principles of control are also effective against indoor civil disturbances. The line formation is an effective block in a corridor. And it will also serve to back a mob out of a hallway. Again, remember the important principle. Use only the minimum force necessary. Using a dry-type fire extinguisher as a dispenser, this team demonstrates the indoor effectiveness of CS. A foam fire extinguisher can be utilized when men and equipment are in short supply. Spread on a corridor floor, the foam or a substitute high concentration of soap suds can work wonders. Watch. It may be necessary to exercise tight control over normally unhampered civilian activities. Since there is always the likelihood of a small, quiet group pyramiding into a large, violent mob, street gatherings should be discouraged until things are back to normal. These confrontations demand much of you. You must work within an atmosphere of explosive emotionalism and yet remain calm and rational. You will be subjected to the worst extremes of provocation, and yet you must be guided only by logical thought. When every natural instinct within you begs for action, you must remain passive. And when finally, the preservation of law and order requires the use of force, you must exercise it with judgment and without malice. While this duty does not require a Superman, it does ask for almost superhuman restraint. It does ask new heights of integrity, professionalism, and devotion to duty. It does ask that you never forget that you serve the people, and that their safety and well-being are always your foremost objective.